Assalamu alaikum. I am here Mrs. Saima Shahid and I am working as an assistant professor of economics at Premier College for Girls, North Nazimabad, Karachi. As per instruction of Government of Sindh College Education Department and with the support and guidance of our worthy principal, Professor Mrs. Shaila Amjad, I am going to deliver a lecture of economics and the topic of my lecture is Methods of Studying Economic Laws. And this topic is related to chapter number 1, that is Introduction to Economics, to both first year commerce and BCom part 1 students. Now let us start the topic. Methods of studying economic laws. Methods of studying means the methods of techniques or the ways to learn something. And what are economic laws? Economic laws are the statement of tendencies by which human beings make best use of scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants. Now, in order to formulate economic policies, laws, and theories, economists have adopted two methods of investigation, or there are two methods of studying economic laws. Number one is deductive method, and number two is inductive method. Aristotle, who was a Greek philosopher. He is considered as a father of deductive reasoning. According to Aristotle, the process of deduction follows from general to specific. Whereas Bacon, who was an English philosopher and he is considered as a father of inductive reasoning, according to Bacon, the process of induction follows from specific to general. Now first I am going to discuss deductive method in detail. Deductive comes from the word deduce, which means something that is derived from existing behavior. In this method, economists derive some hypotheses or principles based on some existing principles. That's why this is also known as an abstract or a priori method. The word priori means pre-existing, and the word abstract means existing only in concept but not in reality. It has a qualitative aspect which can be perceived but cannot be explained. This is a descending process of finding any fact through logical reasoning. It analyzes the problem on the basis of certain assumptions. In this method, we start from general observations and end up at particular generalizations. For example, that there is a general observation that people purchase more of a commodity from the market which sells at a lower price, and sellers increases the supply of a commodity at a higher price. Now from these facts and observations, particular laws of demand and supply can be deduced. Some other examples of deductive method. Example number 1. There is a general observation that birds can fly. Now on the basis of this observation, you can say that since parrot is also a bird, it can also fly. Example number 2. General observation is that all men are mortal. On the basis of this observation, you can say that since Omar, he is also a man, he is also mortal. Example number 3. Firms always attempt to maximize profits rests upon the observation that some firms do behave in this way. Now what are the steps in deductive method? In order to use this method of investigation, the following steps are taken. Step number 1, selection of a general hypothesis. Step number 2, make assumptions. Step number 3, logical conclusion. Step number 4, test and verification. It means that first, basic economic problem is identified on the basis of certain assumptions, which is narrowed down to a particular conclusion, which will tell us the cause and effect relationship between the variables, and then an economist uses statistical and econometric method for its test and verification. This method works only if we accept its assumptions. For example, law of demand, which shows an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. And this law is valid under the condition of ceteris paribus, that is, if other things do not change. Merits and demerits of deductive method. The merits of deductive method are: it is a simple method as it is logic oriented and based on logical reasoning. It is more clear and precise, less expensive as it is not based on data collection process. It is effective for formulating economic theories and laws. However, there are some demerits too. Based on unrealistic assumptions, it is based on certain assumptions which may not take place in reality. In reality, actually all the variables are changing. Hence, there is difficulty in the verification of variables. It is a static approach. Facts on the basis of inferences are drawn may be wholly or partially untrue. Now the second method of study, that is the inductive method. The term induce means something to inject and then formulate a law. This is also known as historical or an empirical method. This is an ascending process of finding any fact through data collection. In this method, we start from particular observation and end up at a general observation. Now there are some examples of inductive method. Example number 1. Mars is a planet, revolves around the sun. Jupiter is a planet, revolves around the sun. Earth is also a planet, revolves around the sun. So from these particular statements, you can derive a general conclusion that all planets revolves around the sun. Example number 2. Now suppose that there are 3 individuals. Ali increases his demand for products when his income increases. Sara increases her demand for products when her income increases. Asif increases his demand for products when his income increases. So from the behavior of these 3 individuals, we can conclude that people's purchasing power increases as their income rises. Now the steps in inductive method. It involves 4 stages. There are four steps in inductive method. Step number 1 is observation and collection of data. Step number 2, formation of hypothesis. Step number 3 is generalization, and step number 4 is verification. Thus, according to this method of investigation, first of all, we collect facts and figures of a particular economic problem and then generalize the research findings. For example, we collect samples of the prices and supplies of different commodities at different time periods. We find that as price increases, sellers increase the supply of these products, and as price decreases, sellers reduces the supply of these products. From this behavior of sellers, we can generalize that there exists a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied if other things do not change. This is called as the law of supply, which is drawn through inductive method. Another example is the law of diminishing marginal returns, which can be derived through inductive method. Now the merits and demerits of inductive method. Merits of inductive method are: it is more realistic since it is based on facts and explain them as they actually are. It is useful for future inquiries. It helps in future investigation through discovery and evidence of general principles. Makes best use of statistical methods. Statistical methods are useful for studying matters relating to national income, inflation, savings and investment. So the conclusions drawn from such method are more accurate. Complementary to deductive method, conclusion derived from deductive method can be verified by this method. However, its demerits are: difficult and more expensive, as here we collect sample data which is quite difficult to collect. It is not only a time consuming process but also a costly one. So this data may be unreliable, limited applicability of data, and may lead to false conclusions. Now let's have a quick review to differentiate between two methods, deductive versus inductive. Deductive method, which is a descending process of research findings, it goes from theory to hypothesis, then observation, and then confirmation. Inductive method, which is an ascending process, it goes from observation to pattern, then hypothesis, and finally statement of theory. Thank you, students. This is all for today, and I request all of you to kindly subscribe this YouTube channel of Sindh College Lectures in order to get latest updates about lectures regarding this channel. Allah Hafiz.